welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're digging into something loads of English learners grapple with. It's about moving past translating everything in your head from your own language.
And actually starting to think directly in English.
Exactly. It sounds simple, but it's a huge shift.
It really is. And it comes up all the time in, online discussions, learning materials. Everywhere people are talking about fluency.
Right. So we've kind of gathered insights from all those places.
Yep. Looked at what learners are saying, what teachers are suggesting.
And our mission today is basically to unpack that. What's the problem with translating? What are the real benefits of thinking in English?
And crucially, what are the practical things you can actually do to start making that shift? The daily habits.
Okay, let's dive in. First up, this whole translation trap idea. What's that really about?
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's that habit of forming your complete thought in your native language first. And then you mentally translate it, often word by word or maybe phrase by phrase, into English before you even try to say it.
So your brain's doing two jobs for everything you want to say.
Pretty much. It's like running two programs simultaneously, constructing the thought, then performing this live translation.
And I guess the first casualty of that is speed.
Oh, definitely. It slows you way down. Think about all that mental processing creates friction.
Yeah.
That leads to those noticeable delays, the hesitations, the awkward silences while you're searching for the right word or structure.
It's like having a really laggy connection in your head.
That's a great way to put it,
Yeah.
And it's not just speed, because languages aren't just different words, are they?
No, they structure ideas differently. Word order, grammar.
Exactly. Idioms, expressions. So if you translate directly word for word, the English that comes out often sounds, unnatural.
Bit strange, or just wrong.
Sometimes just plain wrong. We see those classic examples, right? Like someone might say, I have hunger, because that's the literal structure in their language.
Instead of the natural, I'm hungry.
Precisely. Or maybe, I very like this, instead of I really like this. Small things, maybe, but they instantly mark the speech as non-native, sometimes awkwardly so.
Okay, so it slows you down, makes you sound less natural. What else? Does it mess with your thinking?
It absolutely can. You can get so focused on the mechanics of translating, am I getting this word right? Is the grammar correct? That you actually lose your train of thought.
Oh, wow. So you forget what you even wanted to say in the first place.
Yeah, because your mental energy is going into the translation task, not the message itself.
That sounds incredibly stressful.
It is. And that stress, that frustration, it feeds right into feeling nervous or anxious about speaking.
Right.
Speaking starts to feel like this really difficult, high-stakes exam instead of just, communicating. It can feel overwhelming.
And does that connect to other common issues? Like worrying about mistakes
Yeah.
or getting bogged down in grammar rules?
Totally connected. If you're constantly translating, you're also constantly judging the accuracy of your translation. That fuels the fear of making errors. And you're trying to map grammar rules onto a potentially awkward translated sentence structure, which is much harder than just applying grammar to an idea that's forming naturally in English.
And what about vocabulary? If you don't know the exact translated word?
That's a big one. The translation trap often pushes you to find that one specific word from your native language.
Right.
If you can't retrieve the English equivalent instantly, you feel stuck. You hesitate, you pause, maybe you even just give up on the sentence.
Instead of just trying to explain the idea differently with simpler words, you do know.
Exactly, which is what native speakers do all the time.
Okay, so this translation trap, it's this whole cycle. Slow speech, unnatural phrasing, mistakes, frustration, nerves, getting stuck.
Ooh, stemming from this kind of unnecessary double work your brain is doing.
Yeah, it seems like the major hurdle for so many people.
It really does seem to be. But the good news is there's a clear path forward that everyone seems to agree on.
Which is?
Learning to think directly in English, bypassing that translation step altogether.
Okay, thinking in English. We hear that phrase a lot. What does it actually feel like? What does speak like a thinker mean in practice?
It means letting the ideas themselves, the concepts, form using English words and English structures right from the start, inside your head. It's about your brain making direct connections between a thought or an object or an action and the English way of expressing it, like native speakers do without even, thinking about it.
So going back to the hunger example,
Yeah.
Instead of native language thought, translate, I am hungry.
Your brain just goes, feeling hungry, thought, I'm hungry, instantly.
The concept links directly to the English phrase.
Exactly. You're training your brain to operate within the English system, not constantly refer back to another one.
Okay. And the benefits, I imagine they're pretty significant if you can manage this.
Oh, huge. The biggest one, almost universally mentioned, is improved fluency.
Makes sense. Less processing, faster output.
Precisely. You cut out that middleman, that translation delay, so your speech becomes faster, much smoother, fewer pauses, less hesitation. It just flows better.
And that leads to sounding more natural, I guess.
Directly, yeah. So natural sounding English is the next big win because you're not forcing English words into your native language's sentence patterns.
Your brain starts using actual English patterns.
Automatically. It starts picking up and using common phrases, natural rhythms, the way English speakers actually connect ideas that I really like this just comes out right.
So it's not just faster, it sounds more authentic.
Yes, that's a good word. Authentic. People talk about getting their brain switched on in English or operating in English mode.
Right.
The more you practice thinking this way, the more comfortable your brain gets with how English works naturally.
And confidence, how does that play in?
Massive boost to confidence. When you're not constantly translating, worrying about accuracy, second-guessing yourself.
You can just relax a bit more.
Exactly. You feel more in control. The pressure drops. And that feeling of control makes speaking feel less daunting, much more achievable.
Interesting. Does it help with listening too?
It often does, yeah. It's a bit of a virtuous cycle. As you get more used to thinking in English patterns.
You get better at recognizing those patterns when you hear them.
Right. You become more attuned to the rhythm, the structure, the flow of spoken English. So thinking better helps you listen better. Better listening skills.
Wow. And vocabulary. Does thinking in English help you learn and use words?
It does, but maybe in a more active, practical way. You're not just memorizing lists. By constantly trying to form thoughts, describe your day, label things in English, you naturally start noticing and using common words and phrases in context.
So you internalize them better.
Yeah, they stick because you're using them actively. It helps build a really functional, active English vocabulary.
Okay, so thinking in English isn't just some abstract goal. It really impacts fluency, naturalness, confidence, listening, vocabulary. It changes how your brain processes the language.
It's like building the right foundation. It lets you speak the way you think, which is the goal, really, naturally and spontaneously.
Right. The benefits sound amazing. But okay, let's get practical. For someone who's been translating in their head for years, how do you actually start? It sounds like a huge mental shift.
It does feel huge, yeah. And everyone agrees. Start small. Don't expect miracles overnight. The very first step. It's a mindset change.
Okay.
You have to consciously decide, okay, I'm going to try not to translate this next thought.
Yeah.
Focus on the idea, the meaning you want to get across, not the exact words from your language.
Message over mechanics.
Exactly. And then start simple. Really simple. Don't aim for complex sentences about philosophy.
Well, like just words.
Literally just words sometimes. Look around you right now, see a chair, see a window, think window. Just connect the object to the English word directly.
Okay, naming things.
Naming things. Or simple actions. I am sitting. I am typing. I am drinking water. Just basic descriptions of what you are doing right now.
And then build up from there, like describing your day.
That's a really popular and effective technique. From the moment you wake up, try to narrate your actions internally in English.
Silently.
Silently or quietly aloud if you're alone. Okay, I'm opening my eyes. I need to get out of bed. I'm going to the kitchen. I'm making coffee.
Like being your own narrator.
Exactly. Narrate your own life in simple English. And then kind of extend that by talking to yourself.
Having conversations in your head.
Yeah, simple ones. Ask yourself questions. What should I do this afternoon? Answer yourself, maybe I'll go for a walk. Ask, how am I feeling? Answer, I'm feeling okay, a little tired. Or narrate what you see when you are walking. That's a tall building. There's a dog playing. It forces your brain to keep working in English.
It probably feels a bit weird at first, but I can see how it works.
It definitely does. Another key thing is making English part of your daily routine in small, active ways.
Like changing your phone language?
Exactly. Phone language, computer language. Write your shopping list or quick notes in English. Stick labels on things around the house, kettle, microwave. Think in English while doing chores, brushing teeth, washing up.
Immersing yourself even when you're by yourself.
Yeah. And writing short thoughts is another good one. Not essays, just a sentence or two in a notebook or a notes app each day. Today was busy. I enjoyed my lunch. I feel happy. It practices forming complete thoughts directly.
What about using pictures? Visual thinking.
Very helpful. Look at a photo or just look out the window. Describe what you see in basic English. There's a red car, a woman is walking, the trees are green, connects visuals straight to English.
I think I saw something about using the 5 Ws. Who, what, when.
Oh yeah, the 5 Ws method. That's really useful for structuring your thoughts in English before you speak, especially if you need to describe something like your routine or an event.
How does that work?
You just quickly think, who was involved? Me. What happened? Went to the gym. When? This morning, around 7 a.m. Where? At the local gym. Why? To stay fit.
Ah, so you organize the key info in English first.
Exactly. It gives you a simple English framework, making it easier to then build the sentences, rather than translating a preformed block of text from your native language.
That makes sense. It's structuring the English thought.
Right. And another crucial habit, engage actively with English content. Don't just passively listen or read.
What do you mean by actively?
When you're listening to something, pause it sometimes. Try to predict what the speaker might say next in English. Or after reading a paragraph, quickly summarize it in your head, again, in English.
Keeps your brain in that English processing mode.
Yes. And finally, perhaps, obviously, practice speaking regularly, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Even talking to yourself counts.
Absolutely. Talk to yourself, find a language partner, record yourself talking about your day for 1 minute. Anything that activates the output circuits helps solidify the thinking process.
Okay, these are all great habits, but none of them sound like quick fixes.
Definitely not. It's all about consistency, little and often, building the mental muscle over time.
Right. Now, what about that other big blocker, the overthinking? Worrying about mistakes, getting stuck on grammar rules?
Yeah.
How do you manage that while trying to think directly?
That's a huge part of it. The main advice here is to consciously shift your focus. Focus on the message, not just the mistakes.
Communication first.
Communication first. Is the other person understanding your main idea? That's the priority. Getting bogged down trying to make every single sentence grammatically perfect actually hinders communication sometimes. You just freeze up.
That's actually quite liberating. Aim for understanding, not perfection.
Exactly. And link to that. Don't wait for the perfect word. We all do this, right? You know there's a specific word, but you can't quite recall it.
Yeah, it's on the tip of your tongue.
Don't get stuck there. Use simpler words. Describe the concept. If you can't think of sophisticated, maybe say complex or advanced or even clever in a fancy way, just keep the thought moving forward in English with the words you have.
Describe around the gap.
Yes, keep the flow going. There's actually a good exercise for this. The 1 minute talk.
What's that?
You pick a simple topic, your favorite food, your weekend plans, anything, and you just talk about it for 1 minute, nonstop. No pausing to correct yourself, no backtracking. Just let the English come out, flaws and all.
Ooh, that sounds tough. But I can see how it would break that habit of constantly editing yourself.
It really does. It trains your brain to prioritize just getting the ideas out, and also simple but effective. If you feel nervous or like your brain is racing, just breathe and slow down a little.
Speaking slower helps.
It gives your brain that extra fraction of a second to form the thoughts directly in English. And honestly, slightly slower, clearer speech is usually much easier for others to understand anyway. It's not a race.
Good point. And finally,
positive self-talk. This sounds a bit cheesy maybe, but it matters. Instead of beating yourself up over every little mistake.
oh, that sounded terrible.
Right. Acknowledge the effort. Remind yourself, okay, I'm practicing thinking in English, I'm making progress. Be kind to yourself during the process.
So focus on the message, use simple words, practice speaking freely, slow down, be positive, tools to manage the mental hurdles.
Exactly. They help you become more comfortable with the natural imperfection of language learning.
Okay, this is really helpful. We've talked about the problem, the solution, the benefits, the practical steps. What about vocabulary that often comes up around these ideas?
Yeah, certain words pop up, like consistency. Doing these practices regularly is key. Or impressive, maybe describing someone's dedication or progress.
And discipline, sticking with it like a daily habit.
Right. Those relate to the learning process itself. Then there's useful everyday language that you practice thinking with. Things like at around, for approximate times, I'll meet you at around 6.
Or locations, like down the hall from...
Yep. Or corporate, if you're describing a work setting. And just common conversational bits like hang out.
Meaning spend time casually.
Exactly. Or go out to eat instead of just eat at a restaurant. And foodie, someone really into food.
Using your senses to describe things too.
Oh yeah, describing food or experiences Using taste, smell, sight, that's a great way to practice thinking directly in descriptive English. All these become more natural when you're using English in your daily thoughts.
And this isn't just theory, right? People actually do this and see results.
Absolutely. The resources often share stories. You hear about learners, let's call them Maria or Ahmed or Sarah.
Fictional names, real experiences.
Real experiences, yeah. Maria forces herself to talk to herself in English and notices her fluency improve dramatically. Ahmed describes this feeling like his brain suddenly switched on in English once he stopped translating everything.
And Sarah, maybe she focuses on describing her day and suddenly realizes she's less worried about grammar and just communicating more confidently.
Those stories are important. They show it's achievable. It takes time, yes. Patience, yes. Consistent practice, absolutely. But the improvement in fluency and confidence is real for people who stick with it.
Okay, so let's recap quickly. We've seen the translation trap, how it slows you down, makes you sound unnatural, causes stress.
Yep. And then the power of shifting to thinking directly in English, leading to better fluency, more natural speech, more confidence, even better listening and vocabulary use, getting your brain into that English mode.
And we've got a whole toolkit of practical strategies, starting super simple with naming things, describing your actions, talking to yourself.
Using English in daily routines, writing short thoughts, the 5 W's method, engaging actively with content, and practicing speaking.
Plus those tips for handling overthinking. Focus on communication, use simple words, practice unfiltered speech, slow down, use positive self-talk.
The core message really is, start small, do it often, and be patient. Pick just one tiny thing from today.
Just one.
Just one to start. Maybe decide that for the next 5 minutes, you'll try to name objects around you in English in your head. That's it. Build the habit slowly.
Because this practice, thinking directly in English, it's not just another tip, is it? It feels more fundamental.
It really is. It's building the foundation for that smooth, natural, confident spoken English that allows you to actually express yourself, your thoughts, as they happen.
Okay, so a final thought for everyone listening. As you finish listening to us right now, just pause for a second. Look around you. Pick one simple thing you can see. A lamp, a book, your hand, whatever.
Okay.
Now don't think it's a name in your first language. Just
what?
think about it directly in English. What is it? Maybe it's color. What's it used for? Just 1 or 2 simple thoughts.
Formed directly in English, no translation allowed.
Exactly. What comes to mind?
Start right there. That's the beginning. Keep practicing. That really is the key.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me. Keep practicing that English thinking.
Keep exploring, keep learning. See you next time.